and welcome back everyone to the video series dedicated show on MTV that likes big old trucks and they cannot lie. That's right, we're talking about The Challenge Season 40 Battle of the Eras episode 14. And let's first start off where last episode left off, and that was Michele winning yet another elimination, this time against her BFF Olivia, and then having to name 3 new targets: Johnny, Josh, and Cory. Now coming back to the challenge house, it just seems like Michele is just having an uphill climb as she loses more and more allies as the weeks go on. She can't catch a break in the daily challenges, but she still has some friends in the game like Cara, Derek, and Kyland, and not so much Cory. He's on the fence, as we heard from last week's episode that Cory had Michele as his number 1 on his roster, but she nominated him to be a target. Now Cara is Cory's number 1, and we see Cory with his number 2, Tori, going over the seasons and trying to get mentally right for this upcoming daily challenge. He desperately needs a win, and coming in with a penalty, he's just trying to take every precaution that he can. Now, talking about targets, let's move over to Josh, who we hear volunteered to be a target. I'm sure Josh felt like there was a good possibility that if Michele were to have won against Olivia in the elimination, that she was going to nominate him anyways. Why not jump ahead of it? And I think this was a time that he was like, I'll put myself out there, see what happens, and maybe I can clutch out this win or go into an elimination and stamp my place here that I deserve to be in this game. Now it's time for everybody to don their challenge gear, head down to meet up with DJ for this week's daily challenge called Nother Trucker. 2 at a time, each player will be on top of these trucks as it's careening down a runway, and they're gonna have to swing back and forth trying to hit as many targets. There are 12 total targets that they could hit. The man and woman to hit the most targets during their round will win into power and win into safety. The man to hit the fewest targets will be going directly into the elimination, while the woman to hit the fewest amount of targets will have a penalty going into next week's daily challenge. Cory's penalty is that whatever his final score is, it's -1. Not too bad, but as we will see, it pretty much sinks him from the get-go. I want to start off saying how much I love this daily challenge. To me, this is the best daily challenge of the season, hands down. The challenge loves to put so much money, so much time, so much effort into these truck daily challenges, and some of them are hits, like the one in Season 33, War of the Worlds, and some are misses, like the one in the World Championships where it was sponsored by Transformers. This one, I think, was running on all cylinders. It was visually stimulating, it was simple, it was clear cut, and they were transparent throughout. I love that we got to see everybody score, and to me it was just so much fun. Getting to the actual competition, the first 2 people up are Tori and Cara. Now there's always a disadvantage going first in any daily challenge, and it was seen here especially with Tori. Tori has been incredible over the course of this season in daily challenges, but this was her kryptonite. There was a point where she even stopped jumping to try to hit the targets on the outside because they were so far out that she just stopped trying to swing for those and was just trying to get the ones on the inside of the track. Tori was in trouble of getting a penalty going into next week, but she escaped getting the least amount of targets on the women's side, as Cara actually had a really good run of 5 targets. Now Cory did miss a few here and there, and he ended up hitting 9 targets, but because of his penalty, it dropped him down to 8. Bananas looked incredible. I think of what Fessel said in season 38, where he was like, Bananas is just good at this weird stuff. And it's on display in this daily challenge. This was just incredible. Hitting 11 out of 12 targets, the rest of the men have to be completely perfect to unseat him at the top. I felt like he was in a really good spot. That is until the very next men's round, where Jordan does get all 12 targets. Jordan looked like a well-oiled machine. He looked like a cyborg going back and forth. I talked about Bananas looking like he did this on the weekends. Jordan looks like he invented this thing. Unfortunately, Josh was going the same round, and Josh only hit half the targets. Josh actually hits the fewest amount of targets amongst the men, and he is going directly into this week's elimination. Now, I did talk to Josh in an exit interview that is available over at patreon.com/angelcakevids, and he stated that he sustained a knee injury earlier on in the season where he had to get like 16 stitches in his knee that greatly affected his performance in this daily challenge as well as the elimination. For some reason, the show decided not to put it in the edit, but Josh told me that he sustained an injury and he was basically trying to jump with only one leg, with only one good knee. So he couldn't get the leverage, he couldn't get the power enough to try to hit the target. Let's move over to the women, where we have Michele and Jenny, where Jenny was able to tie Cara with 5 targets, and Michele was able to do just enough to stay out of last place, getting 3 targets, which is a huge improvement for Michele here. But somebody who goes above and beyond is none other than Rachel. As I mentioned, Cara and Jenny both got 5 targets each. Well, Rachel here almost doubled their score, leaving everybody in the dust, in the smoke, getting 9 targets. Aviv, I mean, everything was against her in this daily challenge. She has the plantar fasciitis injury, as well as her height, really made things difficult for her on this challenge, as she was only able to get 2 targets, and she was locked in getting last place, where Aviv will have a penalty going into next week's daily challenge. Kyland and Derek are up last, and both of them do an incredible job. I thought Kyland could maybe rival Jordan. He's been doing incredible in daily challenges, but he ties bananas with 11 targets. Derek, on the other hand, the underdog, the sleeper, comes out of nowhere and gets all 12 targets, forcing overtime and sudden death, where it is Jordan versus Derek. It only takes one miss for you to lose this daily challenge, and somehow Jordan misses one of the targets, and as we hear, Derek is able to get all 12 yet again. Derek wins, but because it is a men's week, he is there just to give back up to Rachel, who has complete and utter control of who goes into the elimination against Josh, Bananas, or Cory. Now, I will say, we have seen Rachel have conversations with both Bananas and Cory, but let's be for real. I was thinking there is no way she's going to send Bananas into the elimination. It's going to be Cory, and even coming back to the challenge house, he knows that he is lower on the roster spots compared to Johnny Bananas. And we hear from Rachel that if Josh were to have stayed out of getting last place, Rachel had to pick between the 3 men of Johnny, Josh, and Cory. She told Josh that she was never going to send him in. So it was going to be Cory no matter what. Speaking of Rachel, everybody dresses up, heads down to the bar, where we have a very wholesome conversation between Bananas and Rachel. Now, coming into this season, I feel like a lot of people were wondering, where do these two sit with each other? Seeing how they have grown and been able to play alongside each other through this game, it's very interesting seeing them have this conversation with each other, where Rachel says that Johnny Bananas is, quote, a good guy. And then he goes into the story about how everything that transpired on the island was a very low point for him. You had his side of the island versus Rachel's side of the island, and they were at odds with each other. And then Bananas says that for them to have not done a season between the island and now, that how they were able to mend up bridges with each other has been inspiring. Now, I do find this interesting because they have done a season between now and the island. They were both on season 22, Battle of the Exes, with each other. Bananas even sent Rachel and Anissa into the elimination, all because of stuff that transpired on the island. I understand that Bananas has done 20 plus seasons and he can't remember every single season, but he won that one. It wasn't like one that he went home early or anything. I would think that he would remember what transpired or what happened on seasons that he won. So I thought that that was interesting, that that whole season of Rachel even being on there and him sending her in just like disappeared. Rachel goes to have a conversation with Cory, who tries to nudge her into maybe considering throwing Bananas into the elimination, and we even have a conversation back at the house where Cara also nudges Rachel to maybe consider maybe putting Bananas in, but Rachel is not even thinking twice about this. Cory is going in. Now, one thing I do want to mention, and I thought it was a really nice montage, was that Rachel and Derek have this moment with each other, reflecting on their win and how they were able to win this deep into the game together, because they're both here representing the LGBTQ plus community, and how they are proud that the challenge has always been a source of good representation. From this conversation, we get to see an incredible montage of challenge champions, challenge legends, challenge icons, competitors who have been able to be incredible competitors and winners of the challenge and be good representation of the LGBTQ plus community here on the show. And I just thought it was a really, really good moment. And we got to see Evelyn, Tyler, and so many others players represented on this season, even if it was just through a montage and they couldn't be on the actual season competing. So I just thought it was really, really nice. And speaking of one final wholesome moment, we do see a conversation, a phone call from back home between Cory and Nelson. This was a really great moment. I love that Nelly T was able to be on the season in some way, in some fashion. It was a really nice moment between Cory and Nelson. I felt like Cory getting to see Nelson really just helped push him and motivate him going into this week's elimination against Josh. Even though I feel like Cory was going into this as a huge favorite, I feel like you just need that moment, that inspiration to really kick it into gear and be like, you're here for a purpose. And I just really like this moment. I really loved seeing Nelly T and getting an update from him. Cory and Josh don their challenge gear, head down to the arena to meet up with TJ for this week's elimination called Come From Behind. Each player will start on one side of the wall. One side is for defense, one side is for offense. TJ will blow the horn, both men will run. The person on the defensive side is trying to jump over a hay barrel and try to stop the offensive player from getting by them and ringing a bell. You can get points if you ring the bell if you're on offense. You can get points for knocking a player out of bounds if you're on defense. I'll be for real, even not knowing that Josh had an injury to his knee coming into this elimination, I knew that Cory had this on lock. We've seen Cory's speed throughout the seasons. The dude is quick. We saw him in Double Agents going up against Darrell in a foot race, and he smoked him. Now, I don't know exactly who's quicker between Darrell and Josh, but it does not matter because I think Cory outruns both of them easily. Round one, Josh is on offense, Cory is on defense, TJ blows the horn, and Cory is able to knock Josh out of bounds, 1 point to Cory. On offense, Cory just takes off and never looks back. Josh does have some trouble hurdling over the hay. Round three with Cory on defense is just like round one, and round four is just like round two. Cory is able to get 4 points back to back to back to back. Unfortunately for Josh, he is eliminated. He had an incredible season, getting top 6 for the men. He made it to the top 12 out of 40 competitors. Congratulations to Josh. I mean, he did have a really good season, but it just was his time to go. Cory wins yet another elimination and now has to make up 3 new targets. Tosses one right back over to Michele because she made him a target last week. So Michelle's a target, Jenny's a target, and then he makes Aviv a target, which is not good news for Aviv as, again, she has an injury. She has a penalty going into next week's daily challenge, and now she is a target to possibly be sent into the elimination. Yeah, not so good news for Aviv, but the preview to next week's daily challenge looks intense. They're going through mazes and caves and dealing with bats and ants and puzzles. Who knows what could happen? It sounds like somebody disqualifies in that daily challenge, so you never know what could happen, but I'm looking forward to it. Now, the episode does not end there, because even though we have kind of had this mystery surrounding the karma points, this week we get to hear where Josh puts his karma points, and he says that he only gives out 3 5s. Johnny, Rachel, and Tori, and everybody else got 1. I think that is very interesting. I think it counterbalances some of the lower scores for like Johnny Bananas, who we heard even one of his angels, Laurel, gave him 1 star, with Josh giving him 5. That kind of balances it out there. But I go more in depth and asked why Josh went with this strategy for his karma points. Again, in the exit interview over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. It's a really good interview. I had a really fun time talking with Josh. If you're interested, please go check it out. As well as you can check out other past exit interviews from this season or previous seasons, and you'll get access to other exclusive content, again, over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. And that's where this episode ends. There's a sense of predictability throughout these upcoming episodes, I'm sure, but at the same time, we are hitting the final stretch of this season, and I just cannot wait. I'm so looking forward to seeing what's going to happen each week, who's going to get penalized, who's going to be targets, who's going to be sent home, the elimination games, as well as seeing who locks in their spot for the final. Players are going to have to win to stay safe, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this all shakes out towards the end. But that is it for this week's review and recap. What did you think about this episode? Let me know down in the comment section below. What did you think about the daily challenge? What do you think about Rachel picking Cory? Do you think she should have thought more about putting Bananas into the elimination? Or do you think that they've been so close as allies that it just couldn't have worked out as a possibility? Let me know down in the comment section below. What do you think about Josh's performance? What did you think about this elimination? I'm not a huge fan of this elimination. I feel like they're trying to figure out a different way of doing something that is kind of like the Hall Brawl, but not so much the Hall Brawl. And to me, this was a miss, in my opinion. But I love the daily challenge. Nother Trucker was incredible. But let me know anything and everything you felt about this episode, the players, strategy, and everything down in the comment section below. I want to hear what you have to say. I now want to give a special shout out thank you to everyone who supports me over at patreon.com/angelcakevids. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your generosity. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to everyone who's watching this video up to this point. I'll be back really soon with more Challenge 40 content, more challenge content, more content in general. But until then, peace.